All right, everybody, welcome to another Let's Talk About RPGs. Tonight we're going to be talking about, well, not we're, but I'm going to be talking about my love and how I got into this beautiful hobby, Dungeons and Dragons. That's right. That's not the original logo, but it's one of the very first logos for bait. And so I figured, hey, I haven't worn a hat in a while, so I think it's only fair to wear my basic D&D hat, my trucker hat. I know a lot of you keep saying you need to curve that bill, but I'm not going to curve it because it's a trucker hat. So tonight I'm going to be talking all about basic Dungeons and Dragons, or BECMI for short. So if you don't know what BECMI means, or BECMI, it means the 5 box sets. Red, and they're behind me, over my shoulder, right there. Red is beginner, so that's B. You got dark blue, which is E for expert. You got the aqua blue box set, which is a C for companion. Then you have the black box set, which is master. And then you have I for immortal. And that's I. So BECMI. So that's what a BECMI means. And if you hear anybody talk about BECMI, that's what it means. Basic, expert, companion, master, immortal. So I started playing Dungeons and Dragons back in 1984. I had always been a huge fantasy fan. I mean, since I was a kid, my dad got me The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. And, man, I was just infatuated with dragons and trolls and, trees and, hobbits and halflings. And, man, I was infatuated. Anything Tolkien. And, hell, I've even taken classes in college, Tolkienology classes, when I was at the University of Central Florida. I even took a couple of those for electives. Some of the hardest classes I ever took because of the sheer amount of reading. But that's what RPGs are all about. It's about reading, especially if you're going to be, running a game, DM, game master, whatever you want to call it. But I was in love with fantasy. And then on Saturdays, back when they used to have cartoons on Saturday morning, I don't know. Leave a comment down below. Are cartoons still on Saturday? I have no clue. But I used to watch the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon. I really didn't even know that there was a D&D game. I had no clue that there was a game. I knew that the Dungeons and Dragons was a cartoon, and I loved it because of, the dragon and the little dungeon master guy, and I liked it. I loved it. And and then a little side story here. I tried to watch it a couple of years ago, and I'll tell you, it is the worst cartoon. So after about halfway through the first episode, I wanted to smash the monitor because I couldn't stand Uni. And then my hero, which was Cavalier, he's the biggest coward of all. And I'm like, I cannot believe I'm watching this. So I said, all right, I turned it off. And then I said to myself, I'm never going to watch this again. And I'm going to remember it for the awesomeness that I thought it was when I was a kid. So I stopped watching it because it was horrible. I'm sorry. But yes, anyways, I loved the D&D cartoon. It was awesome. So we had just moved to Florida in the latter part of the 1970s. My parents got jobs out at NASA for the space shuttle program when it started up. So living in a town that was basically being built for NASA employees, we didn't have a school. So for a couple of months, I'd have to go to this school in Cocoa. I'd have to go to Cocoa Beach. I'd have to go an hour away to school because they were building schools in my area. So to the north of me, I was in, and this happened for about 4 years. And then when I got to fourth grade, I remember we used to take lunch, like your lunch period, half your lunch period you were eating, and then your other half of the lunch period you were out on the playground, working all that food off so you can get back into class. And I remember I went to Coquina Elementary School in Titusville, and they were the Cougars. Go Cougars! so I remember there was like the basketball courts, and beyond the basketball courts, there was like a steep hill that went downhill. And then there were like these massive trees. And under the trees, there were a bunch of old, wore out, like huge tractor tires and construction vehicle tires. And every day, these 3 or 4 kids, they'd be the only ones in the tires because they were so filthy and full of water. I mean, it was Florida. It rains every day in Florida, right? Filled with all these poisonous spiders probably. And here they're building these forts and everything with them and stick fighting. And, they'd come up the hill and all you could see is eyes and teeth. You know what I mean? They were just drenched with this muddy water and just dirt. And it was awesome. I remember one time the teacher hosed them off with the hose outside of the class before she let them go in. It was crazy. And they were coming up one day, and I came up to them, and because I was lurch, man. I was the tallest kid in the school. I was like 6'2" in fourth grade, and I went up to these kids and I'm like, "Hey, what are you guys doing down there? What are you guys playing, Army or something?" And he goes, and my friend James, he was like a little RC, one of my NPCs that I always use, RC. He was like, "What are you gonna do, big guy?" He goes something like, "Are you gonna make fun of us like everybody else does?" I'm like, "No." I'm like, "Dude, I want to play with you guys. You guys are pretty cool. I'm new here." And so they all start, him and my other friend Terry, and then it was Gary. Franklin wasn't in this at the time because he wasn't living in the area yet. And then these 3 kids are like pulling out their character sheets with like these stick figures drawn and like a shield with a THACO number in them and stuff. And I'm going, "What is this? This looks really cool." And they were like, "Oh, it's Dungeons and Dragons." And I'm like, "Dungeons and Dragons?" And I'm like, "You mean like the cartoon?" And he goes, "Yeah, it's a game with books." So I'm like, man. So I met them. They were in the class beside me. And they were in third grade. I was in fourth grade. I went to fifth grade. They went to fourth grade. But we were still playing. We'd still play during like PE and stuff because the whole school went on lunch at the same time. It wasn't a very big school. Go Cougars! But anyway, I remember that first day after getting picked up by my mom, because it was easier for my mom to pick because they actually worked out of Titusville, and it was easier for my mom to come and get me than it was for me to be sent home and then locked out of the house because my dad wouldn't give us the key because we were a couple heathen kids. He'd call us heathens or heathens. My dad was just ruthless, man. My dad was old school, man. God, rest his soul, though, man. So on the way home, I asked my mom to stop by the mall back when there used to be malls, and we had a bookstore called. It was what was it? It was Walden Books, and I went inside, and my mom got me. Remember, she bought me. I got the red box. And then I got Keep on the Borderlands was inside. But I got another book. It was The Gazetteer. It was The Orcs of Thar. I believe it was The Orcs of Thar. It was either The Orcs of Thar or The Grand Duchy of Karamikos. One of those two. And That was it, man. I was hooked on D&D. It was like crack. I couldn't get enough of it. In like a couple days, I read every single freaking book that I had. And I'm like begging my mom to buy me more books. But my mom did, because when my brother and I were growing up, my brother was younger than me, and he always got like preferential treatment, man. He was like the baby, He got the $100, Air Jordans. He got the $100 Billabong jackets, the gotcha shirts, and the Oakley glasses, all the cool shit. I didn't want that. I always wore like Velcro cat heads and stuff. But my brother was all about being cool and about being hip and styling. I didn't care about that, because I knew and my brother was ruthless to my mom, and he would give my mom such a hard time, because he was a skateboarder too, and he'd go through shoes and skateboards every couple days, and man, so every once in a while I'd say, "Hey mom, can we stop by Walden Books?" So instead of asking for all this expensive stuff, I would just I'd get like a $10 book every week, and I was so happy. I didn't care about all that cosmetic fluff, like the glasses and the Billabong jack. Yeah, I didn't give a shit about that. Give a crap. Sorry about that. I just wanted D&D stuff, and my D&D collection just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, I had probably in over 100 books in probably a couple of years, just because I imagined my mother enjoyed buying me those $10, because they were all like $9-10. I'm sure she probably enjoyed buying those for me instead of a $100 jacket for my brother, or $100 shoes that he was going to tear up in 2 days. So but man, yeah, that was what I wanted. I wanted the books, and my brother and his friends, the cool kids. They'd always give me crap, about, calling me nerd and stuff like that. Anyway, how that worked out for them. They're all like dead and in jail and stuff, so. Sorry. That was mean. I'm going to hell for that. But anyways, yeah, but I just love D&D. It was, I couldn't get enough of it. I mean, my mom, she was totally cool with it, because my dad worked weird hours at NASA. So my friends would come over and my mom would see us playing D&D. She had no problem with it at all. But my dad saw that stupid commercial. I think it was Dan Rather or something like that, about devil worshippers, and so I had I call it like the talk or the sit down. And my dad was like threatening to like get rid of all my D&D stuff. And my mom's trying to tell him, "Look, this is okay." And my dad just didn't want anything of it, because my dad's a baby boomer, man. My dad was old school. He was in the Korean War, and he was in the beginning of Vietnam. He didn't, dude. He was like military. You know what I mean? And so the first time I ever said a cuss word around my parents. I mean, I got my mouth washed out with soap. I could taste soap for a week. But I remember I looked at my dad, because he sat me down on the chair right next to the couch, and he's like, "You need to watch this." And I said, "I can't believe you believe this bullshit." And my dad just looked at me like, and then he wound up his arms and he grabbed me and he took me in and basically jammed a bar of soap, and man, I had soap in my teeth. Oh man, any of you my age, you'll know about the old bar of soap trick. But anyways, yeah, I had the talk. But anyways, everything D&D survived, which was good. But I mean, D&D totally consumed me as a kid. I mean, it really did. I mean, it consumed me. It consumed my friends. But we didn't get in trouble. We were good kids, to be honest. I mean, we didn't go around, destroying stuff. We didn't steal stuff. Well, my friends did later on, and I'll talk about that later. But we were good kids. I mean, we didn't start any trouble. I mean, we kept to ourselves. I mean, the fun that we did have is when we would take all the trash cans in the entire neighborhood and we would put them all in one yard. So, but that's nothing. That's like just having fun. I mean, we didn't dump the trash cans or nothing like that. We just took like 30 trash cans in the neighborhood and put them all in one yard. And we lined the entire yard. So the trash guy, and then we would hide and watch the trash guys look at each other like, what in the hell's going on? And they just empty every trash can in the neighborhood in one house. And that's like the only thing that we did as kids. And that's like nothing, man. We didn't vandalize anything or, destroy anything or set the woods on fire. Although we almost did that with G.I. Joes one time when we were swinging G.I. Joes with fishing line from tree to tree, and we were taking our moms. Remember back in the 80s when your moms would have the big hair with the big aerosol cans of hairspray, and they'd be going, with a cigarette out of their mouth in the bathroom, fry the bastard, honey. And, so we would take it and flame through our G.I. Joes. We almost caught the woods on fire that time, but we were all consumed with D&D. Not to get off the subject of, D&D with G.I. Joe, but G.I. Joe, awesome. Still got my figures. The ones that survived. Alpine, my favorite G.I. Joe. He had the most stuff. I loved Alpine. So, man, we were all hooked. I mean, we would... Aquanet, that's it, Aquanet. Just came to my mind, Aquanet. The, like, blue and white dotted can. Oh, and just think, man, I'm lucky I got my hands and my fingers. I mean, that could have blew up, man. I mean, we were stupid. We didn't know what was going on. We were dumb kids. But... to get back on D&D, I'm sorry about that. But, I mean, we got together before school, we played during school, we played during lunch, we played after school, on the weekend, my parents wouldn't see me for years. They didn't see me from Friday to Sunday, because we'd go over to my friend Terry's house, and we'd stay there because his mother worked at NASA. She was on the fire department there. So she worked all weekend. She didn't even come home. She lived there on NASA property during the weekend. And his dad did too. So we had the whole house to ourselves, and we would destroy this house all weekend, and then we'd put it back together on Sunday afternoon before we called it a day, and everybody's parents came and got them. But, oh my gosh, man, that's how my D&D boxes got destroyed. Wrestling. I mean, and heaven help you if you were the first one to fall asleep. If you were the first one to fall asleep, dude, you would get tortured. We'd take Terry's mom's lipstick and like paint faces, and man, it was horrible. Heaven help you if you fell asleep. And my parents wouldn't see me. So on Friday, when my mom would drop me off, my mom would give me $20 for the weekend to buy supplies, dude. It was all about D&D supplies. And I remember, because I lived in Florida, so we had Winn-Dixie, and Winn-Dixie was like the cheap grocery store, right? So I would buy like these packs of Big 60 cookies. They were called Big 60 cookies. And I would buy like the peanut butter one and the lemon lime one. So I'd have like 120 cookies over the weekend, and they had this Czech soda, it was called Country Mist, I think. It was the generic Mountain Dew, and it was like 40 cents a 2 liter. So I'd buy like 10 2 liters, and then if the cans were on sale for like $2 or a 12 pack, I'd buy like 2 or 3 12 packs. And oh man, we would stack these cans in huge pyramids. So it was like a frat party, but it was like a D&D party. And we would stack these cans up, and there'd be 100 cans sometimes. Because that's all we did. We were just jacked up on sugar for the entire weekend. Oh, man. just the memories is so awesome. And we would like fight each other, and we my DM would give like magic items and stuff away. Whoever like protected the can of pyramids, because of everybody else is a monster. It was we were stupid kids. But that's the great thing about it, And I don't mean that in a negative way. We were just dumb kids with huge imaginations. And then we would we had this, I don't know if anybody remembers this fast food chain. It was like Fly By Night. It was only around for a couple years. It was a subsidiary of like Taco Bell. It was called Hot and Now. HOTN Now, Hot and Now. And it was like the worst hamburgers they were like 19-cent hamburgers or 29-cent cheeseburgers. And so I would have $20 and I would buy like 2 packs of Big 60 cookies. I'd have like 4 12-packs or like 10 2-liters of Mountain Dew, or Country Mist as it was called. And then I'd take the rest of that money and I'd buy 29-cent cheeseburgers. So I'd have like 20 cheeseburgers. And that's what I ate for the entire weekend. And if my parents would have ever known that, man, that would have ended. But nothing but cookies, soda, and cheeseburgers for an entire weekend. That was like heaven for a young kid, 10, 12, 13 years old. That was like awesome. And that's D&D, man. That's like a lot of things that I remember about D&D was like my friends and eating cheeseburgers that sat in a bag for 2 days. Didn't even put them in a refrigerator. No. That took too much effort to go and did that. Drinking hot soda and eating cheeseburgers that have been sitting in a bag for 2 days. God. I would put Big 60 cookies. I would open up the hamburger and I would put a layer of cookies, like 4 cookies on it. And I would eat like a cookie hamburger. It was so, gosh, I'd probably get sick if I did that now. And then hot soda. Unbelievable. But those are good times that I remember, man. But we played, man. We were so consumed, man. And we tore up Terry's mom's house, man. But we always put it back together though. It was awesome though. Yeah, but my parents, man, they wouldn't see me from Friday morning until Sunday night. And my mom would always say, "Did you have fun?" And I'm like, "Oh, you have no clue." But when we were growing up, we played most of the B series mall. I think we played everything up to about B7 or B8. Because I don't even think 9 or 10, 11 or 12 were out. Maybe not. But we played a lot of the X series stuff. That was fun. We didn't play much of the Companion or Master or Immortals. I'll be honest, I wasn't a big fan of the Immortals stuff, but I was the only one playing a basic Dungeons and Dragons character because, even though we kind of moved around, we did Mystara, we did Greyhawk, we had characters up to level 31, level 32. But we had a mixture. Because the game mechanics are the same between basic, first edition, and second edition. It's the same thing. First and second edition just added a bunch more stuff. But the fundamentals of the game are the same. And so we could make basic D&D characters, and I didn't want to. I loved my cleric. My cleric's name was John Abity. Jonathan Abity. And then I renamed him later on after I started reading the Dark Elf trilogy and Drizzt, or Drizzt, however you want to say it. You know what I'm saying. I know what you're saying. So after I started reading a Dark Elf trilogy, my DM James wouldn't let me change my character, so I bought a wish scroll. I had all my money I gave to this mage in a floating tower somewhere for a wish spell, so I could change my name. And he got mad when I did that. But even though changing your name I don't think was part of the wish spell description, but yeah. Anyways, I changed my name from Jonathan Abity to Dritston Duerdak. And he's my friend James said, dude, your character is not a Dritston Duerdak. I'm like, I was like, Dritston Duerdak is my new name. And he was so mad that I did it, but I didn't care. But I didn't have any loot. And I mean, I was a level 31 cleric with like a +3 flail. I mean, I wasn't, it's not like I was a big high roller anyway with all these magical items and stuff. I mean, he was chintzy. You guys think I'm chintzy with magic items? Man, you should have seen my DM James, man. Yeah. So yeah, I had to use a wish spell to change my name, which, oh well, whatever. But yeah, we had a lot of fun times. We played, the first thing we played was Keep on the Borderlands. I mean, when we actually all got together at like Terry's house, we played Borderlands, we did Isle of Dread, and like I said, we would play with characters from all 3 editions. So basic, first edition, second edition. And then we would kind of hop around second edition. We wanted to play second edition, but second edition, we couldn't, there were just too many books for second edition. There were handbooks and race books and equipment books, and we just couldn't do it. Because we were kids. We didn't have it. I mean, I mowed lawns once in a while, but other than that, yeah, I'm not, I mean, I'm already asking my mom to buy me $10. I'm not asking my mom to buy me like $20 books 10 at a time. I'm not doing that. I wasn't going to do that. So basically, I stayed with basic, and then my other friends, they played first edition and second edition classes and stuff. So, but then we did second edition stuff like, we did first edition Greyhawk, and I remember we did a little bit of Dragonlance, but I wasn't into Dragonlance. I know we did some Al-Qadim. I think it was Al-Qadim. We did some, what else did we do? We did a lot of stuff, man. We did some Lankmar. We did, Undermountain. And we did Ravenloft too, but I wasn't a big vampire fan. But, yeah, but we did, but Undermountain, man, that's what I liked. I loved dungeon grinding. I just loved going from room to room, and I loved drawing, on graph paper. Back when you used to do this, when you're playing around the table, you take graph paper and your DM will say, yeah, this goes right, this goes left. So I would be the cartographer, and I would always draw the map. So yeah, we spent about 2 years, and I mean 2 solid real years in Undermountain. It was crazy. Undermountain was like, man, Undermountain was where we ran in the Beholder for the first time. This is the first time we ever ran from monsters. I remember the first time I ever saw the Fiend Folio and the Githyanki on the front. I was like, dude, that's my favorite creature right there. And I don't even know what this thing is called, but that blue Fiend Folio book, I was like, that is my monster right there. And we ran it. We went into this portal that took us to one of the plains, and then we had to start fighting Githyanki, and then we made it back to Undermountain. And before we got the portal closed, because we had to destroy the entire arch, and we couldn't destroy it, so they were coming through. So we're trying to fight them and destroy the portal, and we finally get it destroyed, and we had to run from that. And oh man, it was so awesome, man. We had so many rooms of treasure in Undermountain. We would give full rooms of treasure to the orcs and the kobolds and the goblins and the bugbears. the gnolls, and we just give each other, we'd give them all treasure so they would fight one another. And then we would actually play the goblins, we would play the gnolls, and we'd play those combats out. And then our characters would just come right back in and take the rooms of treasure after they killed each other. So that's how we cleared a lot of Undermountain out. Because we were just offering all these rooms of treasure. I mean, these rooms would be full to the hilt of treasure. Because if you ever played the first Undermountain box set, that map is just ridiculous. And it's huge. It's like all 24 levels of the Dungeon of the Mad Mage on one map. And that's just the first floor of Undermountain. Ugh, it was so fun. We spent 2 years of our lives in there. It was so fun. Ugh. That's where me and my friend Franklin, we killed my friend Gary. Because he kept coming down for the summer and ruining our game for us and trying to get us in fights and pickpocketing each other and putting my stuff in Franklin's pack and Franklin's stuff in my pack or Terry's pack and or NPCs that we had or hirelings or whatever. I had a hireling because you could have hirelings in D&D. So I had a couple of hirelings. So he'd just make the game miserable for us. So me and my friend Franklin, we killed him when he came down here. He was there for like 20 minutes and he goes, all right, dude, I'm going to go out and smoke a cigarette. Because he was like smoking and stuff. So he's like, I got to go out and smoke a cigarette. And so we were like, this is the time to do it. So we killed him when he was out smoking his cigarette. And he comes in and says, Dave, you're such a DIC. And Franklin, you too. And I can't believe you guys killed me. And yeah. So we did. We killed him. Blade Barrier. Hold person. Blade Barrier. Great combo. It worked. Well, they changed it from Blade Barrier to Barrier. 7th level cleric spell. Shredded him. It wasn't there. It was cheesy. I know, but he got on his bike and he goes, you guys are a bunch of jerks. And I remember me and Franklin were out on the porch. And I remember me and Franklin were talking, and then when Gary was riding his bike past, he gave us the bird and he goes, F you guys, I'm out of here. It was so awesome. And that's one of the last times that I ever saw Gary. Oh, it was so fun, man. Those were some good times, but I wasn't a big, like I said, I wasn't a big Ravenloft fan. A lot of people like Ravenloft. I just wasn't not a big Ravenloft fan, but yeah. So yeah, but I mean, it totally consumed me as a kid, and I mean, it consumed me, and I mean, I got kicked out of school. We all got kicked out of school because we were skipping every day. I mean, we would skip school. We went to Titusville High School. Go Terriers! We'd go to Orlando, and in Orlando, across from the Naval Training Center, back when they used to do boot camp in Orlando, across the street from the Naval Training Center, there was a game store called Enterprise 1701. And this place is massive. And it was nothing but RPGs, and they had some comics, and there were a ton of like sailors in there. So we were always able to play, and we played a lot of second edition there because those guys, they had all the second edition stuff, and we didn't. But usually those guys were cool. They would let me play a basic D&D character. So yeah, it was awesome. And one of my players, actually, Pernicious Pilfer, at this time, he was in the Navy so there's a chance that I might have played with him when I was a kid and he was in the Navy, because we love those Navy guys because they were so into D&D like we were. And those guys are like, man, you guys are like so young. You guys are like early teenagers, and so they we always played together, and it was cool, man. It was Enterprise 1701. It was so awesome. And but we played BECMI first edition and second edition, but I had an exception because my character was so plain. They would let me have like first edition and second edition spells if I wanted them. And then we played another game called Talislanta, which I love as well. And I'm gonna talk about that in another episode down the line for Let's Talk About RPGs. But they would let me take skills out of Talislanta and add them to my character too, which I thought was really cool. So it brought my basic cleric up to where like a first edition or second edition character would be. Not really a second edition character, because second edition characters could get pretty insane, especially if you were using like, like the paladin book or the fighter book or the cleric book or whatever. So yeah. So I would like I had a hodgepodge level 31, like basic cleric, almost made it to immortal. We got close, but no cigar. But that's my memories of D&D, and had so much fun. And then, when I got kicked out of school, I had to live on my own because my dad literally kicked me out of the house at 15 years old. And I got on a Greyhound bus and went to Daytona Beach, Florida. And I didn't talk to my parents for years. But then I kind of got away from D&D for a little bit. And then once I turned 18, when I lived in Daytona, Desert Storm was going on. And I remember I was jamming to the Metallica Black album everywhere I went in my Walkman, my CD Walkman. I had a CD Walkman and a tape Walkman all in one. CDs were just like coming out big time, And then I had the Tesla 5-man acoustical jam tape, and then I had Queensryche Empire. So I was jamming to those three, and I'd always sit there on the bench when I was on lunch, and I was like, and then I looked and I saw a big store called, I think it was a Books A Million or something like that. And then I'm like, I'm going to go in there and look for a D&D book. And I bought the Rule Cyclopedia. And I guess it had just came out. And I'm like, wow, this is cool. Dungeons and Dragons Rules Encyclopedia. I'm like, I haven't seen this. And what it was is it's all 5 box sets in one book. So, but I bought that, and that was like the first thing that I ever bought. And, man. So and then after I came back to where I was from, I got promoted, and I was running my own meat market because I had become a meat cutter and went through schooling and all that for, the trade. And I was making damn good money for 18 years old. I was making like $18 an hour at 18 years old. So every payday I'd go, and so I started talking to my parents again. My mom saved all my D&D books for me because she knew that I loved them. And I'm so glad she saved them for me. And yeah, sorry. So I got my D&D books back, and then I started making good money, and I started buying a book a week. Every time I'd get paid, I'd go to Walden Books, and I'd buy whatever I didn't have. So I'd buy like one book a week. And then after I had everything, the manager would let me look at the microfiche, and then whatever, I had a checklist of everything that I had. I carried around in my wallet for years. So I would start buying all this stuff that I didn't have. Like, I got like B10, 11, 12. I got like all the like, I got all the immortal stuff that way, the master stuff, a lot of there was stuff that was 13, 14, 15 years old that I could still get brand new at Walden Books. And I was like, oh man, that's awesome. So, but eventually I actually have everything basic D&D, and you can see that on my What's on Dave's Shelf series. Shameless plug there, by the way. But yeah, my mom, she bought me most of this stuff as a kid, and I can't She kept me out of trouble. I mean, she really did. I mean, I could have just imagined I would have gotten the same trouble that my brother and all his hoodlum friends got into, and I'm glad I didn't. But yeah, my mom's awesome, man. I'll do anything for my mom. So that's why when she asked a year and a half ago to come to El Paso and move in with me, I said no problem. And I knew my life was going to change, but that's worth it. So, but yeah, so that's everything that, like, it's like the history of me and D&D. But from a mechanic standpoint, basic D&D, it's exactly as advertised. It's basic. I mean, the class and race, they're mixed up into one. So there's 4 core classes: your fighter, your cleric, your thief, and your magic user. They're all human. There's no choosing a race and class didn't come until first edition and second edition, and then every other edition after that. But basic is basic. It's like you're one of the 4 humans, or you're going to be a demi-human, which is an elf, which is sort of like a fighter and magic user mixed up in one. There's a dwarf, which is sort of like a fighter, and then there's a halfling. And then Dungeon Magazine, or I think it was Dragon Magazine, later introduced the druid, which you had to be a level 9 cleric first. And then you had to do this massive quest to become a druid, from what I remember. And then the mystic, which the mystic was like the most powerful D&D class. It was the monk, basically. And it was in like Dragon. So, but it was basic. It was basic. It was swing your sword. That's it. That's it. And cast spells. But there were some set spear versus charge and some other cool things that fighters and stuff could do. But there were no rangers. There were no sorcerers. There were no illusionists. That was all, first edition. But with the other box sets, it added more fluff to the game. So in the master box, the mastery box, the black box, it added weapon mastery, which added a whole massive amount of customization you could do with the weapons you wanted to use. And then with the Rule Cyclopedia, later came out around 91 or so, it added a skill check system. So they did kind of bring D&D up to, not quite to advanced first edition, but they still did some work on it to where you could, do some customizing and stuff. So, but the game is as advertised, man. It's very plain. It's basic. And that's why Advanced came out. That's why second edition came out. But I think of all the editions, I think basic D&D is probably the most ruthless and the most relentless. When you hit 0, you're dead. There's no going to negative 11 hit points. There's no 3 saving throws, D20 saving throws, and 3 strikes, you're okay at 1 hit point, and then 3, you're dead. No, when you hit 0, you're dead in basic D&D. There's no resting. There's no getting back hit dice heals. The only healing you can get is from like potions and like magical healing. That's it. There's no resting or anything. It was a relentless game. No, but I think with not only basic, but with first and second edition, I think Thacos scared a lot of people because, when you're in school, you saw negative numbers for the first time and you're like, what are these, So I think the negative numbers kind of scared people away, maybe from D&D or something. But I liked it. It's just subtracting 10. That's all you're doing. So, but I don't think AC wasn't as scary as everybody thought it was. But once you started playing, you would, you would totally get used to it. So like I said, you could also customize it. And like I said, we also like Talislanta. That was like the first game we played that was fantasy, that wasn't D&D. So, we liked the skill system that they had in there. So we incorporated that into, if you made a basic D&D character, you could use Talislanta skills. So that was kind of cool. But, you can house rule anything you want, And we used to find those Talislanta books they were always on the comic book racks back when they used to actually print comic books and books in general and have bookstores and stuff like that. But yeah, but like I said, we wanted to play second edition, but it just wasn't for us because we didn't have any money. We remember when around second edition, when it kind of was new, and we went in there and they were like the 3 core books, and we were like, oh, that's cool. So we all chipped our money in and got them. And then the next month we went to Orlando and there was like $500 out, and we were like, are you kidding me? So we basically just stuck. We already had the advanced first edition stuff and a lot of basics, so we just kind of kept doing what we were doing. So, but there's just too many books. But I mentioned earlier about Immortal. I wasn't a big Immortal fan just because I didn't like the way that it just didn't. You just spent 36 levels becoming basically a demigod or something, and then now there's these ridiculous Immortal rules where. But we did play Immortals one time. I remember we did play an Immortal game, and it was kind of like just impromptu. I remember we were watching. You kids, I'm sure you guys have heard of Godzilla, but the old Chinese translated, it was on like Channel 24, public access, and we were watching Godzilla at the time, and we were wrestling in the house, destroying the house, and somebody had I can't remember who said, let's play Immortals as Godzillas and we'll go destroy New York's. So we went and destroyed New York with a bunch of like Godzilla Immortals. We spent so much time making those characters, and we just destroyed New York in like no time. It was like all character creation and then like 5 minutes of destroying New York and all the military and stuff like that with our eye rays and, just stomping everything. Oh, so stupid. But yeah, I wasn't a big fan of Immortals, but then, the great thing about D&D was the simplicity of monsters. Monsters were so basic, but they were so deadly. I mean, the game was deadly. It's not like there's all these, standard actions, minor actions, free actions, encounters, and it was basically you got one bite, one tail kick, and 2 claws. And it will say 1, 1, 2, and then you had damage. Bam, bam, bam. It was so easy to read monster stat blocks. It was so awesome. Basic. It like I said, it's advertised as basic, man. But and then mass combat. That the other thing that I didn't like about basic, and it's not like I didn't like it. I just thought that it was just too hard because the game is so easy to play until you want to do a mass combat. And then once you do a mass combat, it's like a whole chapter with all these tables and variables, and you just get lost in it, and you're like, we'll just do our own mass combat. And we all had castles, and we were all lords. We all had our own titles, our own lands. We had our own islands. I mean, but the Orcs of Thar, I hate those Orcs of Thar. But I love that Gazetteer. But the Orcs of Thar, they came down from Thar into Karamikos, and they just destroyed our. I remember that too. They destroyed all of our. We had like multiple strongholds. We had armies. I mean, we paid for our armies. I mean, we had so much micromanaging going on. I had all these crops and stuff that I would sell to neighboring lands, and I would sell to the other players that I was playing with. We'd like trade commodities and stuff that we need. It was, dude, we were nerding it up back then. And I remember the Orcs of Thar, those freaking orcs, man. They came down from Thar and just destroyed, because we were out adventuring. And when we came back, all of our lands were just destroyed and everything was pillaged. And I thought that was a pretty cheap move of James, but I mean, it added to the story. I mean, yeah, it was pretty fun though. I had so many good memories about basic Dungeons and Dragons. Still have a lot of memories, and I wouldn't change anything about it. I mean, even though my dad was kind of right that D&D, not for devil worshipping, but I mean, I did get kicked out of school because of D&D, and all my friends did basically for skipping school every day. And man, but I wouldn't change anything about basic, playing D&D in the middle '80s, and I mean, we played up until almost 2000 when EverQuest came out, even though I wasn't around for a couple of years because I moved to Daytona. I jumped on a Greyhound bus and moved to Daytona Beach, but of all my friends, my friend Franklin was the only one that kept in contact with me when I went to Daytona. He was my only friend that kept in contact. And I love that guy to death, man. I've just been back in touch with him, and he's eventually going to get into one of my games, so that's going to be cool. He's like, I don't know about the whole online thing. I was like, well, if you're going to play, I said, you live in what, Jersey? I live in, and before that, he was in schooling to be a rabbi in Jerusalem. So I'm like, we ain't going to be able to get together, dude. So, but now he's back in the States and stuff like that. So it's like, man, but he's a great guy, and he's got a family now and got like teenager kids, and my son's 23, and man, time flies. 40. I'll be 47 in 2 weeks. I cannot believe the years are just flying by. But I'll tell you what, I wouldn't trade anything for my experience with Dungeons and Dragons as a kid. I mean, man, such fun times. And it's like emotional too, because you had these friends that you were with every day for years and years of your life. You grew up together, and it's like everybody's like apart now, which that's just the story of life. But thankfully, Al Gore created the internet, and we have beautiful virtual tabletop platforms now, like Fantasy Grounds, that we can get together and play Dungeons and Dragons on now. Man, isn't technology great? Now, if I was only around in another 5 billion years when our galaxy collides with the Andromeda galaxy, I would love to be here for that. But other than that, I wouldn't. D&D. And if you guys haven't tried basic Dungeons and Dragons, give it a try. I mean, you think D&D 5 easy to play? You should play basic D&D. It's super easy. You got attacks, and you also got some saving throws, and that's about it. So, and with that, that's where I'm going to leave you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this long Let's Talk About RPGs and basic Dungeons and Dragons. I want to see what you guys have to say down in the comments section below, because I always read the comments and I reply. So let me know what you guys think about D&D. I want to hear some of your stories from when you were playing basic D&D in the 80s, or if you're playing now. So, but I love basic D&D. It's like one of the loves of my life, and I wouldn't trade that part of my life for nothing. Nothing at all. But all right, everybody, I'm going to let you guys go. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And until next, Let's Talk About RPGs. Have a great one. Stay safe. Keep using the awesome Fantasy Grounds virtual tabletop program. Bye, everybody.